Welcome. This is the first of a series of instructional videos for the Empires of Apocalypse series by Udo Grebe Games. It will suffice for an instruction for any of the games, be it Morse Code, Triumph and Fall of the Desert Fox, Cold Days in Hell, or Pearl Harbor. I will be filming a series of videos using the sequence of play that all the games follow, and each video will show one phase. So today we're going to look at the preparation phase. The next video will start with the active side action segment and so on. So there will be extra videos for extra complicated and therefore extra lengthy explanations that are needed for certain portions of the sequence of play. But there you have the basic overall plan. Now this is an instruction in the Empires of Apocalypse series, but I will be illustrating it through a game of Pearl Harbor, the Pacific Theatre of Operations, because that is a game I am currently playing. So it will give you sort of a real life examples of play. I should say from the outset that I am by no means an expert at these games. I am a fan. I like the system very much. I have not played it for quite a few years now. I don't know, 3 or 4, something like that. And I'm getting back into it with this game of Pearl Harbor, which I have not played at all. So I'm not an expert, but I am going to prepare every video before I film it. And I'm filming them at the suggestion of a poster on the game box, Games on Tables. It wasn't originally my intent to do instructional videos, but someone requested it. I thought that's a good idea, and it's going to aid me on the that basic idea of if you can teach it, you know it. So this will help me to learn the game as well, more thoroughly perhaps. Oh, sorry, fiddling around bits there. So we're going to start without further ado on the sequence of play. Now you can see it's marked 5.3, which means that's chapter or section 5.3 in the rulebook. And the rulebook itself thereafter follows the sequence of play in its sections, which is a very helpful method for finding things you need in each section. But it does have that downside in that some things can be sort of in an odd place. But with this series it actually works very well. Point 6 is the first part of the sequence of play, the preparation phase, and it's chapter 6 in the rulebook. So today we're going to look at all of this, which is merely placing reinforcements, a weather check, and initiative. This is how you start every turn. Now you might wonder what this annotation by me is, JCPs. This is for the Pearl Harbor game that I am playing, which require Japanese, Chinese political points to simulate and deal with the limited war which is undergoing. So they are gained each phase at the beginning of each phase, and also with certain in-game results. So we start with placing reinforcements, and for that what you need to do is go directly to your Empires of Apocalypse. Let's zoom out. Production chart. This is a nice colourful one. I believe it comes with Cold Days in Hell. Every turn is a month, so there are 12 turns in a year. Duh. And everything that you build, which will I will instruct you in towards the end of the sequence of play, is placed on this sequence of play, and nothing takes more than 12 months to build. So you don't have to mark the year it's coming in as well. It will either be this year or next year. This is a factory, which I have that marker here to remind me it's Japan is building that. They want to gear up their production. I'm currently on turn 7, so that's July. This is the month marker, and there will be all these reinforcements coming in this turn. So you simply pick them off and you place them in cities of a home country. Now, many cities also have ports, so your naval units can go directly into the ports, but it has to be cities. You don't have to worry about enemy zones of control because, or enemy adjacency, they just go straight in. And then, so you'll simply pick them up. Here we have an engineer unit of, an early build engineer unit of the Russians. And then you go and place them on your map all the way over there. So I take this over here, I find a Russian city, I'm going to put it here in Irkutsk, and there, bomb, job done. That's what you do with the rest of those fellows. One thing I should say with all these videos is if I do make factual mistakes in anything I say or do, and I become aware of it, I will correct it in the comments section below. It just occurred to me as I was speaking that I don't know if City Hex is out of supply. It would have to be completely surrounded by enemy units because enemy zones of control do not block supply. That's not likely to happen, but I don't recall it being mentioned in the rules. Okay, so that's the first part. The other thing to note is that you have to take stacking rules into account, and there can be only 3 units per hex. So if you've already got 3 units in a city, you won't be putting anyone else there. Okay, so that was the place reinforcements, and with the JCPs I am using a resources storage pool sheet which comes with the game here. I'm marking it with these counters of my own for the JCPs, so I will be adding, I'll finish adding my reinforcements later, but I add 2 JCPs for the Japanese and 1 each for the communist and the nationalist Chinese. And they might have earned some in the last turn for various sort of conquering and cities and so forth. Okay, so now we move over to the weather check, and that is a simple die roll of a 1d6. These come with the game. There's a 4, and we go to the weather table chart. Now you can see that the weather table has all 12 months listed on it, and it has zones here. So these are weather zones. They are marked on the map thus. So this is the American West Coast. There is the USA over there, and this here is Hawaii. And this is my own marker just to remind me that no reinforcements come in there until America declares what is in the war. But anyway, so this is the temperate weather zone. This is the subtropic weather zone. Up there is the Arctic weather zone with the Aleutians. Then over here we have the North Monsoon. The subtropic comes down around here. So we have the Philippines in the North Monsoon region. We have much of Sumatra and the East New Guinea and the north of New Zealand in the South Monsoon zone, and then we go back to another subtropical zone. Just so if you're wondering, these blue lines mark sea regions, not weather zones or anything like that. So we rolled a 4. And we are in July. So on the 4, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. So we don't have the polar region on this map. It is on the European map, or at least in extensions to it. And we have the Arctic zone is clear, temperate zone is clear, the Mediterranean zone, not on this map, is clear. The subtropical zone is in mud. Now I've made up some little counters of my own to mark this because you can see with potentially lots of different weathers happening in on the same map, you might not remember which is which. So what was I say? Subtropical is mud. Okay. There's my little boot. And the 6 that I've written down there is to remind me the movement cost in clear terrain. One thing to note is that on the Pacific Theatre map, every hex represents twice the distance it does on the European map. So on this map, every hex is about 50 miles across. On the European, about 25 miles across. So all the counters and so forth, because they're all series things and the rules are series rules, everything's judged for the European map, and you have to double those costs for the Pacific map. So what else were we? So we had mud, and then we have MS is monsoon in the North Monsoon region, and then clear in the South Monsoon region. So monsoon, again, a movement cost of 6. Now, only very few units have a movement rate of 6, so most units wouldn't reach that. They could still move 1 hex anyway. So that's the weather noted. You also have rain, winter, and then extreme weather of blizzard. You can see there's a few Bs. I mean, it depends on the die rolls. For here, there's lots of monsoon happening. Lots of blizzards up in the polar regions. You can get blizzards in the Arctic, and essentially no one sort of moves much. No planes, hardly any planes can fly, and so forth. But you check that then with the weather effects. So here's the rain with reminders for you of adjustments to land bombardment factors for the air and shore bombardment factors for naval units. Search rolls, so you deduct these from searching for sea searches. Air combat ratio goes down, so air combat is less effective in rain, and air to sea bonus goes down. Movement sea to rain refers you to movement costs weather chart. So you hear if we go to the mud weather we have in a clear terrain, it costs 3 hexes. I marked that 6 on my little homemade counter there because that's for this PTO map. You can see jungles marked here. That's actually already adjusted for the Pacific map scale because you only get jungle on the Pacific map. And what else we had? We had monsoon. So that's interesting. Monsoon's not on there, but this, here you go. Movement cost for monsoon sea mud. Oh yes, that's right. So that would be the same there. But the monsoon itself has the movement sea mud, but it has different effects on air factors. You cannot attack ports with surface ships and subs. Length of supply line is only 3 hexes now instead of the usual 5. That's from rail or road acting as rail, or 2 for the Asia map. So you see those adjustments, and you see that the tables and charts thing is quite useful because it reminds you it does not affect winter experienced forces, USSR blizzard land attacks, sea winter, etc. So these charts tables are quite well organised, quite helpful, although rather glaringly coloured. But you know, it sort of makes things clear in its own way. So that, I think, is all we need to say about weather, except just to let you know that in the preparation phase, 6.2 weather check, we have things listed. So the weather effects are all expanded upon here. So you know, the search rolls, that's what that search roll adjustment means, etc. Blizzards. You see there's extra effects that, you know, expansion on those effects just noted on the table and chart. Important things to remember here. So this is not a complicated game, but you know, none of the systems in it are actually complicated. But you know, it being a game about a complex subject, it has got some complexity in the detail, in that there's sort of quite a lot of detail, although the designer has designed them to be as simple as possible. So he does put helpful designer's notes in here to say, okay, here you work at blah blah blah, etc. That's to help you get into the game. Read these later. You don't need them so much to start. But he'll say, I've simplified something here, abstracted the process, just to make the game a bit easier to quicker to play. So that's that. Then on our sequence of play, we now move to the initiative part. And for initiative, we move back to our friendly Empires of Apocalypse production chart. We go down the bottom, and here we have the year track. I'm in 1939. We have the initiative is either with the Allies or with the Japanese. It's the Axis. So here we're with the Axis at the moment, and then you have a bonus, otherwise called a modifier. So different versions, different games in the series had slightly different sort of markers. So, and in the rules it can be a little bit confusing because the designer does that a bit. And not so much in these rules version 2.0, which you get in the Pearl Harbor game, which comes if you don't want to buy the whole Pearl Harbor game, which is very cheap. You can get it for about €35. You can buy the magazine it's in for €5. Command and Strategy number 7 from the Udo Grebe Games website. But anyway, that's just to say sometimes things, the initiative adjustment is called a bonus, sometimes it's called a modifier, and you've got, in one game it came with a modifier counter, in another game it came with a bonus counter. I prefer the word bonus, that's on the back of a fortress marker. So I'm using bonus, but you could call it a mod and think of it as a mod, it's the same thing. Now, so initiative again is very simple. You have each side rolls one die, and the higher wins the initiative that turn. If there are ties, then the other side will get the initiative. So let's do it, and then I'll explain a bit more. So with 3 for the Japanese and 4 essentially for the Chinese at the moment, because these are the only two ones sort of involved with each other. So the Chinese have it this turn, the Allies, but the side that does not get the initiative can demand a reroll. Now, the reroll happens immediately. It can only happen once, so you can't then, the other side doesn't, continue like that. And it costs you a bonus. So if you're on bonus 2, you would go down to bonus 1. If, say, so the bonuses at the moment is with the Axis, the Japanese here. So if he wants a reroll, it goes down 1. Now, if the bonus was with the Allies, it would go down 1 for them. But similarly, if the die rolls had been different, like this, and the Allies want the bonus, they don't actually have any bonus or modifier points, but they can always spend 1 to get a reroll, in that it essentially gives 1 to your opponent. But you cannot go beyond the ends. So if your opponent's on +5, you cannot, as I read it, you cannot demand a reroll. And it specifically says if you're on because if you're on -5, if your opponent's on -5 and as the Japanese, the Axis, you want to reroll, you could not give them +1, so it would not be possible. So at this point, as we rolled it, the Chinese are happy with that. The Japanese, in the game that I'm playing now, I don't think they're going to mind that at the moment. They want to conserve their bonus points. But say they did spend, they have to say before they roll the die, they say, right, I'm spending 2 bonus points. You can't spend 4 and put the opposite side up to -2. You can spend your points down to 0. So the Japanese could have said, right, before we rolled the die, I'm spending 2, so their 3 would become a 5. They get the initiative. But because it's a bonus, well, okay, so they say they get the initiative, 2 plus 3 is 5, and the Chinese, the allies, could then say, right, I want to re-roll, so I'm giving you a point for a re-roll, let's re-roll. But the Japanese still get their bonus on the re-roll, so say we rolled again, the Japanese go, haha, I still beat you, and you gave me an extra point. That's how it goes. Now, so I'm going to leave it like that, and I'm going to put this over to there to show me that the allies are having the initiative. And that is, I believe, everything that I need to tell you for the first phase of the Empires of Apocalypse game. Bom, bom, bom. So any comments down below, any questions down below, I will definitely answer them. Please give thumbs up if you found this helpful, and thumbs down and comments if you found it unhelpful. And the next video will detail the beginning of the active sides action segment, and it will be the reorganization phase. And then the next video will start the naval phase, or at least the naval movement phase. And we will progress down the sequence of play like that. Then there will be naval combat phase. Then there will be the land movement phase. Then there will be the combat phase, exploitation phase. And then it repeats for the non-active side. Then we will move into the partisan phase. There will be a conquest phase, a political phase, a production phase, a research phase, and then that I make out of all those phases plus different parts. I don't know, so that's at 15 or so videos. Thank you for watching. I hope you found it useful. Bye bye.